All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Black Desert video. So today I felt like doing some math on a topic that I think would help a lot of players, whether you're a beginner all the way till you're sort of getting into the end game. And a lot of guides that are out there are probably a little bit outdated these days, but I wanted to talk about the price of the Old Moon accessories and how much it would cost to get it to pen, and is it actually worth crafting versus buying. So I'm doing the math for you on current prices, and I know some videos or stuff you probably have seen on websites, they're probably a little bit outdated, so you're gonna have to do a little adjustments on prices on your server. But what I have right here is the costs of everything. So for example, let's look at this. From base to pen, you're basically gonna get all the materials, right? And so what we want to look at is the price of all three of these. So the Crescent Ring, Narc, and Tungrad, right? So we'll bring this up in a second, but let's see. A Narc earring is 17 billion, 18 billion. So yes, right now it's worth making. Once again, if you pick one and then you decide you want to swap it over, I think it's like 1 billion silver in materials, but you can swap it over infinitely. Tungrad ring is 24. I think this one is higher simply because people are going to be going for the 5-piece Tungrad effect that's coming soon, which is basically a more AP on the 5-piece, essentially, with the Black Spirit change. And Crescent Ring is 17 or 18. So technically right now, on the NA server at least, the Narc earring is the lowest price, whereas the Tungrad earring is the highest price. Does that actually mean anything? Not really. We're just looking at that. So, where do these materials come from? How do you get them? And let's talk about that. So, first of all, you need 2,300 catalysts total. These thingies right here. You can buy them from the Old Moon manager in every town, and basically they're like 3.5 mil. And then sometimes you can get them from events and or various other things. So essentially, assuming you are buying them straight out and you have 0, it'll cost you about 8 billion total, which is probably going to be the most expensive part. Now, the 18,000 Blackstones, I'm going to assume that most people already have Blackstones from grinding, life skilling, and everything. So assuming you have 0 and you're just buying everything off the market at current price of, I think my calculation was 210k each. Obviously, your server might vary. So I just took the average of 210 and then multiplied it by 18,000. That's why I got 3.7. Your numbers might go down and up a little bit, and I guess depending on when you're doing this, like 5 years down the line from now, it might actually just be irrelevant. So yeah, we got that. The more important things I wanted to talk about that might change in the future are the magical shards. So I took them at 1.5 mil each, and the way you get them is basically you melt the sealed black magical shard or crystals. Sealed black magic crystals. So I took 1.5 as the average over here, and then you need 540. So this is assuming you get the worst RNG. If you're melting these down yourself, well, I think that's the only way to get them. But if you're getting them yourself, you have a chance of getting 1 or 2. Mostly 1. I don't know what the weight is for that, but assuming you get 1 every time, 540 times in a row, going to be roughly around 800 mil at the very worst at this price. And sometimes you'll get lucky, so realistically it's probably going to be like maybe 700 or less at this. So sometimes you get lucky. And the 180 Yona fragments, this is what I wanted to talk about actually. There's a lot of different ways to get them. Obviously, one is grinding them yourself. And we found an image on somewhere, and this is basically, I think, the Grumpy Green website. So when you melt down accessories, you get a certain number of Yona fragments based on the accessory meltdown. There's some more past this list, but those are the expensive one, and those give you like one extra, to the point where I didn't include it because I didn't think it was worth it value wise. So what I would do at the current prices on the market, if you are doing your boss splits, or not boss splits, like the rift bosses daily or weekly, whatever, generally they'll give you some of these accessories, right? And you just melt them down. So my average was, assuming you were taking 5 at minimum, like doing anything that gives you like 5 minimum or 5 maximum, for the most part, most of those, it'll cost you around 300 to 400 mil. And so basically the total is roughly 13 billion, give or take a few, like maybe 100 or so million. But what I wanted to basically show you was, is it cheaper to buy it, or is it cheaper to make it? And the answer, we just looked at all those, is to actually make it right now. So you can make 2 of them, and the first one you can make was a while ago, before this whole old moon system was a thing. Basically the status like 1, 2, right? You get 2 of them. So is it worth it? Absolutely, to make it. And I've talked about this in previous videos of like which one is the best to get. And I think it's a good time to update this video, simply because like obviously new accessories are coming out. For the end game, Deboreka is considered the best, and most people aren't using these anymore. But if you are a beginner and or like mid-level player, these are still probably relevant. So it ultimately depends where you're grinding and what stage of the game you're in. I think for beginners, the best option would be to get the crescent rings, simply because straight up it just gives you the most AP. And like if it puts you up into a new bracket, it's the best thing to do. If you don't know what brackets are, you're just wondering, basically you see these numbers right here. If you hit the question mark, you'll see a number and then a number in the bracket. So like 332 plus 207. Every sheet AP, which is this number, every like 4 of them, after a certain point, like 261, 265, 269 AP, that'll boost your bracket number up higher. So if your AP is higher based on like the crescent ring, it's overall more AP essentially. And I truly do think the Narc earring is actually pretty solid. So it may not look like it's better, but it's 15 AP and 5 DP, which allows you to maybe try out a new spot that you haven't done before. And maybe it's a little bit safer. Who knows? But it also gives you 8 damage to Commosylvians, which is not necessarily 1-to-1 AP. It's like 0.8 AP or 0.8 compared to 1 AP. But I think if you are over capped on an area in Commosylvia, then it's overall better. You're gonna have to read some sort of like guide and chart on how to actually read that. But essentially, if you want to know in a very simple form, let's take, I don't know, some enemy in Commosylvia, right? Let's take this one. So how do you read it? You take the view total stats. This is your AP and DP. And then the restricted is your total max AP limit. So you will take 410, right? The way you would read that is you click on your stats. You take this number right here. This is your AP plus the bracket. And then you do extra AP against monsters. And then the Commosylvians and everything. So like specific species damage. And then you add this number plus this number and all these. So you get the total. And if that number is higher than the total, then species is slightly better. But when in doubt, we'll just look at those charts and then figure it out. But I do think that Narc earrings are also good because there's a lot of very good spots in Commosylvia to grind, especially if you're going for infinite potions, trying to level up these days. Gyphon is still the best thing to do. But overall, yeah, there's a lot of good comma spots to grind, so I think this is definitely worth it. As we looked at in the beginning, Tungrad earrings are the most expensive of the 3. However, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best one to pick. It's kind of specific because generally Black Spirit Rage is more on the PvP side. Not that it's not useful at all, but like the big things are getting your 100s faster and 200s. So it's very situational, and it's not like an overall thing. Once you get your 100, you do the burst and then you generate again. So it's kind of like a timed thing, whereas the other two are like consistent 100% uptime kind of like damage, if that makes sense. So this is big burst damage on your 100, and then these are just overall stats that'll carry out. So in my opinion, once again, it depends where you're at in the game. I think for beginners, the Crescents are the way to go. Narc Earrings, if you're grinding a lot of Kama Sylvia, which it would be slightly better, 15 plus 8, and in a very basic nutshell. And then Tungrads are like, I guess, if you're at the spot in the game where you have everything else, and like earrings are the last pieces you should always be working on, in my opinion. But yeah, it just kind of depends. So yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm happy to point you in the right direction. And usually, yes, you can buy all this. Is it cheaper to make it as of right now? Yep, it is. And that's all I wanted to talk about. So with that said, thanks so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Love to see you guys come back. I make videos for beginners, returning players, and people who are looking to get better at this game. And yeah, I have a lot of stuff coming out in the near future. And that's it. Peace.